Okay, so we're now recording. Just wanted to make sure I do that. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. We got a nice big group again. Appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to join us on our session today. We're going to go for about a half hour to 45 minutes, and Jeremy and I are going to be taking you through some quick steps to add a job to your system and how you can do that with different types of estimates. So just take you through a couple of slides here. So welcome to our 3 steps to open a job webinar session. Our hosts today, myself, Emma, and Jeremy, our application consultant. These sessions are happening every Thursday at the same time for the next few weeks, and there will be a link coming up that you can use to follow and sign up for future ones on all kinds of different topics. Today, our agenda, we're going to be reviewing the standard process for creating a job from different types of estimating, and Jeremy's going to walk us through that, and then review how those estimated values show up on the Job Financials tab. And then after that, of course, and throughout, you're welcome to be asking questions. You will see a question window on the GoToWebinar control panel. I'll be keeping an eye on that. And then Jeremy, I think, will be checking in, excuse me, with me as we go, and maybe we'll address some of those questions live and in session today.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Oh, definitely. Well, Jeremy, I'm so glad you're here, and I hope you're feeling better. I know you weren't 100% this week, nor was I, so there's definitely something going around. But Jeremy, why don't I begin by taking away my screen here, and I'm going to make Jeremy our presenter. If you're ready, Jeremy, are you ready?
I I am ready.
You were born ready. Okay, I'm going to make you the presenter. And so we'll begin seeing Jeremy's screen shortly once he's all prepared for us here. And again, yeah, just keep the questions coming in, everyone. Happy to hear them as we go. Jeremy, you got the little message saying to make you presenter, I hope that's all behaving itself?
I unfortunately did not. Let's see if I can.
Really? Well, that's
Oh,
just good fun. Let's try that again. Make presenter. Oh, here we go. It was my bad.
there we go. Now I've got it. Yes.
Excellent. And I see your screen, so hopefully everyone else is seeing your screen. Just type to me,
All
anyone,
right.
if there's a problem.
And I want to make sure it's the right screen. It's the one with the cursor.
I'm on your estimate find screen there, so hopefully that's where you
Great.
planned for us to be.
That's exactly where I want it to be. Yes, for sure.
Excellent.
So the first step of creating a job and opening a job is via the estimate. Now, there's a couple of ways to create an estimate. There's adding an individual estimate, creating an estimate via the copy feature, or actually creating an estimate template, then doing a find for that template and creating another estimate based upon that template. So the first one we're going to go through is just the basic add an estimate. And to do that, we're just going to go to Estimates, Add Estimate, and for this demonstration, we're going to do one for Great Atlantic Insurance. And I apologize for the voice I got today. It's not because I've got the clip on my nose. It's because I've got a little bit of a sinus cold here. So,
You sound fine, Jeremy. We both sound, a little bit gravelly, but that's okay.
all
Adds to
right,
the
it's
adds
my
to the
radio
cachet.
voice.
There you go. It's your radio voice. Well done.
All right, so we're going to just call this one a webinar test. The type today is going to be a brochure, and the AE is Mark Wilson, one of our great account executives here. And we're actually going to make yourself, Emma, the estimate contact, because I'm
Ooh,
going to give you a copy of the estimate to review.
I'm excited.
And so for this, I'm just going to add a little bit of design and a little bit of production and maybe some client management here. So we're just going to go ahead and hit submit, and this is going to create the estimate. And as you can see, I've filled in all the mandatory fields, which are in that lovely yellow color on the left-hand side there. So you know now I'm okay to go ahead and create the estimate. So we're just going to click on submit. This is going to bring us to the actual estimate screen where we can go ahead and put in some hours to the service, or we can actually add staff and estimate at the staff role as well. For this purpose, just for this demonstration, we will just do it at the service level. When I do the copy and estimate, we will add some staff, just kind of spice it up a little bit here. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a couple hours in for each services. And keep in mind, the more you do estimating, the more you'll realize, what kind of hours you're looking at so that you can actually have your estimated levels compared to your actuals without that much variance. So in this one, I'm just going to go 2 hours for each, bringing it to a total of $600. I'm going to hit save here. And now what I want to do is actually go ahead and notify Emma that it's now available to be emailed. All right, so what I'm going to do is just go ahead and click on the notify client, which then now brings you to this what we call a popover window, or you can call a pop-up window, and it's basically where you can type in a little note to Emma to let her know that the email is ready and that the estimate can be then looked at and reviewed. So we're going to go ahead and just use the standard template it comes with, and it's just saying, hello Emma, and the estimate is now ready and it's been created by myself. And you can go ahead and look at it and contact your account executive if you need any more information.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Hi. I just wanted to, we haven't had any questions yet, which is fine. So it's a quieter group than last week, which is totally okay. But I just wanted to chime in because something I'm really liking that changed recently is the ability. Well, we've always had the ability, but it's very much improved that look of where you can build those templates. And if people are interested and if we have time, we may spend a minute and go look at it at the end. But back in the admin section, if you do have access to that, you can build out as many of those templates as you like. And I find the revised or the updated version of that looking really quite friendly. I think you probably agree.
I would agree, yes. And
Hmm.
you know what, that is a good point. We should definitely go into the back end of the admin section, take a look at the new print parameters and what the templates really look like.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a bit off subject, but just since you were on that screen and if people were wondering, yeah, you can make those templates and it's pretty friendly. So I won't interrupt you again. Go ahead.
No problem. Keep interrupting me. It's like you said, it's quiet out there, so it's nice
Yeah,
to get into it.
cool.
So we've got two options. We can just either send it straight to Emma, or I can send a test to myself, the current user, to verify that I like what the estimate looks like. In this instance, we're just going to hit send, and you'll just have the box disappear. And within usually the mail usually comes within 2 to 3 minutes from sending that. So Emma should be getting a notification in her inbox shortly, and then we will be able to know that she actually has the estimate PDF. And it is a PDF. Um, at this time, it's only a PDF. I know we're taking a look to see if we can do it in Word as well, just so that you can edit some things, but currently it's just in the PDF format. So now that I've actually created the estimate, I've given it to Emma for approval. She's come back and said, yes, everything's great. What I'm going to do is actually mark the estimate as approved so that it puts it in a state of approved, and you'll see it now as the estimate is approved. We're going to come up to the top here and click Add Job. And what that does is create the actual live job in the system. So now you've got the job open. As you can see, status is open. Now you've got the tabs across the middle here. I call this call it the meridian, or I call it the middle belt. Basically, as you can see, it's the gray belt. Any karate fanatics out there? Get past the black, now you're under the gray. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at what the estimate looks like on the estimate tab. You've got the estimate number, you've got the estimate name, the date it was created, the status of it, and the actual amount. Now the internal amount is the internal services that you're going to apply your time against. The external would be the vendor charges. And so you can see the subtotal of $600. And if we take a look at the financials tab right across from the estimates, you'll see what it actually looks like here as far as the financial aspect of the estimating values. You've got the 6 hours, 2, 2, and 2, the estimated totals of 200, 200, and 200. And of course, there's a variance right now because we don't have time against it. You'll notice also the cost is not here as well. It's because we weren't estimating at the staff level. If you want to estimate at the staff level, that gives you the availability to see your cost as well and to see exactly what this staff costs you to be on that job and see if you're profitable with certain employees on the job, or if you need to get a senior person or a junior person switching places on the job so that you can make more revenue off of them. So what we're going to actually do now is just go back one screen. We're going to go to Estimate, Find Estimate, and we're going to type in Webinar in the estimate name. And we should be able to find that estimate that I just created a moment ago, and we did. Emma, at this point, are there any questions that I should address?
Oh, hi, Jeremy. Well, you can hear me okay?
I can definitely hear you, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I have been having the most fun because my keyboard and mouse decided to both die on me at the same time. So, apologies to those of you who have been asking questions. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just rapidly changing batteries to the help of my colleagues here. So, sorry about that, everyone. Technical troubles. Let me see if there are some good questions to answer while I've got you, though. So hang tight. Do, 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 do. Oh, here's a good one. And sorry if this is slightly off topic, because like I said, I've been in battery panic. Catherine's asked if you can open a job before the estimate is approved. So could you maybe speak a little bit about the estimate approval status and just, if you would not
Yes.
mind?
Yes, no, we can definitely touch on that. The approval status does not necessarily have to be used to be able to create the job. The approval status is basically just allowing the client to know that it's been approved, and the next time you adjust anything on the estimate, there is a revision number added to the estimate. So for example, you give the client the estimate, they sign off on it, you mark it as approved, they come back and say, you know what, actually we want to have a larger print, it's going to be an extra hour, so you have to go in and adjust the estimate. Once you click on adjust the estimate, you'll notice here, now that it's approved, you've got this revise and edit estimates. When you click on that, you actually then get a revision number. And what that revision number does is tell you how many times it's been altered. And yes, it will print on the printout. So there are clients that do not like to create the revision, so they leave it in review. Again, the approval status doesn't change the workflow, doesn't do anything to the estimate of the job, so you don't have to use it. It's just basically internally so you can track the process.
That is very cool. Thank you for that. A question that came in that I'm struggling to type an answer to because my keyboard still seems to not think it has batteries. So I figure we'll answer it while we're here. Gary had asked if there's a way to tell if you've sent an estimate off to someone. And my answer to that, I think once you use that notify client, it does move the estimate to a status of submitted, correct?
It does, correct. Now, excuse my voice going there.
No, you're good.
Basically, also, if you actually take a look, if you actually have the email integration set up with the system as well, you should be able to find that email under the notes section as well. So, for example, I know we're going a little bit off topic here, but if we go to Emma.
Hey, Jeremy.
There
Thanks
we
for
go.
answering that. I don't have any. Let me see if I have any other questions for you at the moment. Let me see. Okay, I don't have any other questions at the moment. Let me just review them, but feel free to keep going, and I will battle my keyboard here while you're doing that.
And well, since we're kind of just kind of slowed down here a bit, I need to ask, did you receive the email from me? Can you confirm that you've actually received the estimate PDF? Okay, well, it seems that Emma's keyboard's still acting up, so I'm just going to go ahead and move on. We can ask that question after. I just wanted to confirm that she got the email, because once the email is received from the estimate, there will be a copy of the PDF under the Files section.
Oh,
So you'll
sorry,
notice
Jeremy. I
here.
am paying attention now. Let me just check that. And yes, I did definitely get that email.
Okay, great. Now, there is a little bit of a time delay, but under the files, under the estimate now, there would be a copy of that PDF once she received that email. Now, it can take, again, 2 to 5 minutes, depending. Also, if you're using an outside internet provider for your email, it may get stuck in their release time, which can be anywhere from 10 minutes to half an hour, is what I've seen with other internet companies. So going back on topic here, we're going to move into copying an estimate. So I brought up my original estimate here, my webinar test. You'll notice here, you know what, let's take a backtrack here. I'm just going to go to Find Estimate and go back to where I was and show you how you look up an estimate. So we're just going to type in the estimate name webinar, and anything with that syntax will get pulled up into our Find list. Now I'm just going to go ahead and click on the estimate to bring it up to the estimate details page. You'll notice a little button on the top right here that says Copy Estimate. So what this is going to do is give me a carbon copy clone of the original estimate. Now, so that we're not reproducing the same estimate for the same client over and over and confusing them, we're just going to go ahead and put a 2 behind it so that they know that it's not the same one. And for example, it's not a brochure this time. It's actually going to be a direct mail piece. Emma's still going to be the contact. Mark is still going to be the account executive. But we're going to switch to the higher rate just because this client can afford to pay us a little bit more for the work that's being provided, just because, again, it's taking a few more hours than it's supposed to, and you know what, they've been hard to deal with. So let's go ahead and create this. Now, you'll notice here quantities. you can actually quantities from estimated or actual. Since there were no actual timesheets on the job, we're going to go ahead and use estimated currently. And then what I'm going to do next is once this job is in the system, I'm going to keep everything the same, but I'm actually going to add some staff to it. So I'm going to add staff to the design. I'm going to pick Alon and Mark. So I'm just going to pick Mark first, and I'm going to pick Alon second. And you notice that the rate is a little bit different. That is because these individuals have their own staff rates. And you know what? Mark is actually going to be 3 hours, and Alon's going to be an hour. And now what I wanted to touch base on here is if you let me just go ahead and save this. You'll notice the totals have changed, and up at the top here, if you mouse over, you'll actually see the cost. Now that's what's costing you to have Mark and Alon on this job. So it's costing you $500 for these individuals to work on this job. Your quote-unquote billable amount that you're estimating at $1,800. So you're making roughly just under $700 revenue on that. So again, if you need to make more money or you're comfortable giving the client a break, you can adjust the values as well. And so it's always good to kind of see where you're at as far as your cost versus your billable, just to make sure that you're profitable at the end. So we're going to go ahead and save again just to make sure I saved it. At this time, I'm not going to use the approval status. I'm going to bombard Emma's inbox today. And you notice there's a few different email templates. We can quickly touch base. We've got time at the end where you can find that and where you can create those templates of the notifications. As you can see, if I change this, it does change information as well around. So I'm just going to put it back to the bare basics here. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now. And there you go. And so again, I'm just going to go ahead and send it over to her as well. And now that that's done, again, I'm just going to go to Add Estimate. Sorry, Add Job from the Estimate. And now it brings you to the actual jobs page. And again, you've got the gray bar across the middle, which gives you the estimate and the financials, and then the files associated with it as well. Now, one question I get a lot is context on the jobs. How do we add context to the job so that, one, we could use client portal, or two, they can be available on the invoice down the road? So we're actually just going to sidetrack here, and we're going to go to contacts, and this is where we can manage job contacts here. You just go ahead and click Manage Job Contacts. You'll notice Emma right away is a contact checked off because she is the contact on the estimates. Here are the available staff contacts available for my company here, a function point as the example. Now you'll notice that Great West Insurance has Emma as well. If you wanted a different company representative to be on this job, let's say you've got one company that has two sub-child companies underneath and you really need one of their contacts in, you can type the company's name in and their name will appear on the list, and then you can go ahead and check that individual off, and they are now a job contact. That's very used for most companies that have umbrella companies or subsidiary companies underneath them. So I'm just going to go ahead and cancel this. I'm not going to add any more at this point here. So we've now created a job from a based estimate, and as well as we copied an estimate and created the job. So what I want to touch base on is now the actual estimate template. But before I move on, I should ask if there's any questions that need to be answered at this point.
Hi, yeah. First and foremost, I have a keyboard and mouse. We did a fast little switcheroo. So I am able to type questions and answers back. So thanks everyone for your patience. We do have a couple that I think might be worth going over, and apologies if I'm jumping away from where you've been. One that's come in from Gary, which I think is a good one, is once an estimate is approved, how do you easily turn those line items into tasks? And I'm not sure if you were showing, I think you were showing assigning staff to the service level to build the estimate out. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I think it might be worth just touching on, if you haven't already, turning those items, making those into tasks. And I believe it would just be through creating a schedule, yes? But I'll let you answer.
That is definitely correct. So once you're at the estimate, let's actually go back to this test 2. So let's go ahead and wait for it to come up. Here we go. Now we've got the estimate up on our screen. So we've got the add schedule option. And what that's going to do is it's going to take anybody that's actually been estimated at the staff level, and it's going to create the task for them and create an actual schedule. So we've got the option here to use the estimate services as a template, or you have the option too, is if you've got an MS project file, you can import that. Keep in mind it has to be a basic level template with MS project. It cannot be a complicated relationship structured MS project file. So we're going to use the function point estimate services as a template. We're just going to keep the same title, and we're going to go ahead and hit submit here. And there you can see now we've got task 1434, 1435, 1436, and 1437. So now those are the individual tasks. So what the schedule does is it groups the tasks together to keep them under the same container and to give you kind of a start and end date of those tasks and services. So you can now then go ahead and actually modify the schedule and put in a start date and end date, and then you can actually assign the tasks to those individuals. Currently they're in the draft status by default. I don't want to get too in-depth in scheduling and tasking because I'm going to say that down the road there's definitely going to be a webinar on both of those, and today is specifically for opening a job.
That's
if
true.
there are any
Yeah.
questions coming up from this, we can definitely talk to support either via support@functionpoint.com or giving us a call as well to go over this.
Yeah, no, good point, Jeremy. I think what happens is, this subject inevitably mentally leads people to thinking further down the line. And another question we had in from George was sort of along those lines. And hopefully, George, I've understood your question talking about, once an estimate is submitted, is there a way you can edit the estimate without necessarily having to edit the schedule and vice versa? And really, what I had said to George, and just for the rest of you, in my mind anyway, and Jeremy, you're welcome to argue with me. I think of estimates and schedules as they're connected, but they aren't necessarily connected. I think, your estimate is what you're sending out to your client for approval for them to sign off on. And then your schedule is much more your calls to action for your team members. Is that how you describe it to people or think of it as well?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much exactly the same way. I usually think of it as the estimate is estimating the work to be done, and the scheduling and the tasking is actually scheduling the individual to perform those services for
Yeah.
that job.
Well said. Yeah, and we do see clients have to edit their estimates, of course. The scope changes or the client wants to change things up a little, and you're editing that estimate for the client to maybe reapprove or agree to a different set of items. But editing the schedule doesn't mean you need to edit your estimate, and editing the estimate doesn't mean you need to edit your schedule, in my mind, anyway.
Correct. Yeah. I
Excellent.
mean,
Okay.
to stay on the surface of it, they are intertwined, but they are separate. And you can edit the estimate and schedule any point you want. Keep in mind again, if you're using the approval status, you're going to get revisions on the estimate when you edit it multiple times.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Well, we haven't had any further questions for now, and again, I will be prompt in my responses now here, people, so feel free to keep the questions coming.
What I wanted to do before we touch base on the add an estimate from a template is actually go look at this job details page for the second estimate that we created here. And we want to go to the financials page here. And you can see here that we've got the start and filter date. What you can do, if you've got a delivery date and you've got some timesheets in the system, you can then filter the values and the financial amounts via that. And what I wanted to do quickly here, I know it's kind of off topic, but I wanted to actually go in and quickly create a timesheet for this job. And I'm just going to quickly go ahead and add the timesheet here to job 30307. And I'll just actually add a timesheet for an hour here for Mark. And I'm just going to quickly go back to the job here and just show you the financials page here. And now you can see there's cost factor involved as well. So you can see Mark put in an actual timesheet for 1 hour, and it cost function point in this case, or in case of the example would be your organization, it costed you $25 for that hour that Mark spent doing the work. And then again, you've got the actuals and the variance of that as well to see how much the bill out cost would be for the client.
Jeremy, just while you're there, Stephanie had a good question, just asking, confirming where those numbers are pulling from, that rate is pulling from.
So the actual rate that's used on the estimate is being pulled from either the staff override rate, which is in the admin section under manage staff, staff rates, and staff permissions. There's also, if you're not using the staff rate, there's the company rate, which is under just manage rates, and that's where you're going to get the 175 an hour. The cost is coming from the staff section and the admin section.
Perfect, thank you. And I just want to point out while you're there as well, this is permission based, a lot of this, so it's not necessarily not necessary that all your staff by any means would see costs, or you don't they don't need to see that. That's obviously private information. So
Correct, yes.
are you getting hip chatted during our webinar? Tisk tisk, Jeremy.
I am, yes,
These
unfortunately.
people, no, well, we need you. This doesn't surprise me.
All right, so now that we're back on the estimate on the job page here, I apologize for that. I'm not
Oh,
sure
I'm
why it's so
teasing you.
popular.
I'm teasing you. You're popular because you're smart.
Well, let's hope that's the case. So let's go ahead and actually create the estimate template here. So again, I'm going to use Great Atlantic Insurance just because I like that name, and I've got Emma set up as the contact. So we're going to add an estimate here. There we go. And all right, so we're going to go ahead and create this now. And I just want to take a look at one thing here. And we're just going to call it Webinar 3. And we're going to put a bunch of services on here. Here we go. And you know what? Let's actually change the category to a time and materials just to mix it up a little bit here. We're going to click on Submit. And let's just take a look here for a moment at the edit details. Everything looks good. And I'm just going to go to Edit Services. And I'm just going to put in a couple hours again here, 3 hours. And you don't necessarily need to put in hours for every service that you've estimated. You can go ahead and actually delete the services if you figure out later on that you don't want them. So that's what I'm actually going to do right now. I'm just going to delete these extra services that don't have a dollar value.
That's a nice little trick, that take all the $0 stuff out. I forget about that one myself.
And it also comes in handy as well as with the new printouts. If you don't want certain items to show it, even with a $0, you can just erase them from the screen as well. Now I do notice that I'm missing a certain button here on my screen. Just bear with me one moment, folks.
Of course. And thanks everyone for the questions that are still coming in. Appreciate that. So do keep them coming. And if what I answer is unclear, please just type back and say unclear, or need more clarification. Happy to re-respond or put it to Jeremy while we're live here together.
Well, since I'm just a little bit off the beaten path here, why don't we take an opportunity to answer some questions?
Off the beaten path. You're doing great, Jeremy. You're at least all the batteries on your equipment's working. Sheesh. Well, we had Jason just want to confirm that cost display stuff is permission based, and it absolutely is. Totally understand how you would not want everyone to see that, and so it's very much permission based. And then Bob was asking about, I think you were asking, Bob, a little bit about staff rates. that's there. So his question had been, what happens if an employee has two different rates on the same job? And so I interpreted that to mean about staff rates. And so setting up staff rates is quite straightforward. If it's something you do, we do have great documents on it, and your staff rates are determined by what the person is doing. So if I was tracking time to copywriting, I might be at a certain dollar value an hour versus if I was tracking time to running an errand or running a webinar. And so on that, all those items, all those services could be on a single job, and depending on which item I track time to would determine what staff rate of mine was being pulled. I may have just muddied the waters there, which was not my intention, but you can have different rates, staff rates on the same job. The rate is really being determined by what the person is tracking time to. Jeremy, if that made sense to you, then hopefully it'll make sense to everyone else what I just said there.
No, that's definitely right. So what I'm going to do now is making the template here. So I'm just going to hit save so that we know that it's a template. It's called Webinar 3 template. We've got those 3 hours in. We're going to hit save to save it. And then basically what you're going to end up doing is coming through the system and just going find estimate, and you're going to use template as the name. And then we're going to do find. And you can see I've created a few as well in the past templates as well. We're going to use this one for an example. Again, we're going to use the copy estimate button to clone the template, so we're not overwriting it. But what this does is allow you to set up an actual template for certain types of print jobs, brochure jobs, email campaigns. So you can have like 3 different types or 4 different types of estimate templates for work that you know you're going to do quite often. And what that will allow you to do, instead of just trying to find an estimate and hit the copy button, that allows you to copy a templated estimate and not having to go in from one that was roughly done and manipulate it. You get basically exactly what you want. You change the name of the company it's for. You change the hours if the hours need to be changed. And so, for example, in this one, before I make a mistake, which I was about to do, and actually modify the template, I'm just going to hit copy estimate. And we're just going to take off the template, and we're going to make it 4. And I'm going to change the brochure type to actually direct mail piece. And therefore, technically, I don't need to touch anything because I'm basing this estimate via the template that I had originally. So I'm just going to hit save, click on add job, and now I've comfortably created the 3rd job as well, based upon the template. Now, since we've got a few minutes here, I just wanted to touch base on the actual estimate printouts and where you can customize your printouts. Emma, were there any questions or anything coming up at this point so I can just stop here and go into the printouts?
No, I appreciate that. Let me just get one little confirmation thing. I was just typing to Stephanie, but we may as well voice it. She put this really, really well. Stephanie says, so creating a template is simply creating one base estimate that will always be there and then copying it each time you'd like to create a new estimate from the template. And I was writing back to her that was really well said. I think that summarizes it quite nicely, and hopefully you will agree with me, Jeremy.
I definitely agree, yes.
Yeah, so really well said, Stephanie, and that's absolutely it. I was just typing back, but I talk faster than I type. That you can create more than one template as well. So you could have a template for different kinds of work you do. So if you're regularly doing, website banners or flyers or brochures or posters, you could create a template for each of those, and then just really quickly pull it up and make a copy every time you get that kind of work coming in.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, they're handy. I often forget about them, and so I'm glad that you're reviewing those with us today, Jerome.
All right, so let's do a little segue into printouts. We'll just go to admin, system setup, and printing preferences. The printing preferences screen is the new screen for our new printouts. So you'll see in this list below here, I won't go through everyone in detail, but these are the new printouts available in the system. What I'm going to touch on are the estimates. We've got the 2 estimates. We've got the detailed, and we've got the regular old-fashioned printout. Now, if you've been with us for a while, you would have known there was an internal estimate and a client-facing estimate. That's the difference between these 2. The detailed would be more of the internal facing that had the hours, the rates, and that so on for your internal meetings. And then you had the client facing, which was just a printout. What I want to do is actually go in and create one. So you've got the option to preview the layout, or you've got the option to actually create from this printout. You can't create from scratch. You have to create based upon one of our base printouts. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to click copy, and it's letting you know by copying this printout, it's going to be under my tab now. So my printout tabs. So we're going to go ahead and click on the create, and it's going to bring up this, what we call it is what you see is what you get window. You can basically go through every aspect of the printout. Now we do have a few more options. You see two here, but you can scroll over to find a few more options as well. So you can go ahead and actually just create a header reversal, for example, which moves the office information to the left and moves the logo to the right. The old-fashioned header with no line, and then of course the classic with the line. And those individuals that have certain envelopes that need the address in a certain spot, here's the header here that will actually give you the logo higher up so that the actual client address would be higher up as well. Now again, you've got your options here. I'm not going to go into every option available, but again, there's options here for the header. You do have the estimate summary, which also gives you more options as well. Now on this one, you've just got the two. You've just, as you can see kind of here, I know it's pretty small on most people's screens. It's just the actual layout of the date and the estimate name and the estimate number. You do have the option to repeat on all pages. I know that a lot of people are asking me, how come my estimate starts so far down on the second page? You can remove the repeat on all pages, so it's just the actual estimate details that start on the second page. You do have the option, again, for most of the details in the estimate to replace the name. For example, in my demo system, projects can be called campaigns, jobs can be called dockets. You have the ability to rename them here as well, so it goes hand in hand with the way your verbiage is in your system. The estimate details, again, you can go ahead and change that. We don't only have one block that you can use, but you can say who it's prepared by and what is the prepared by person. Is it the account executive or is it the estimate creator? So we give you that option as well. Now this is where it comes into, I want to say kind of a cool aspect is you can now create multiple templates and have different options. You can say one, you know what, I want to show all the services and expenses on this estimate. So you create one called all services. You don't want to show internal expenses or external expenses, but you want to show the time, the hourly amounts. So you can then come into services down here, unchecked expenses, check off the name, check off the total. So now this printout will only show you the timesheet time on the estimate level. So there are different options as well as far as the alignment of the details as well. You'll see there's a few different alignments. One that just has the total with no line. That's for anybody that's really wanting to do an estimate with no line items for services and just a grand total at the end. And then we've got your estimate terms down here. Again, you can show your tax number if you want your GST or PST tax number on this. Now HST as well in some provinces it still exists. And then you've got your different versions of the terms. You've got the terms with the bold, and you've got your terms that don't have the title. And the signature line is the last piece here. The signature line, you've got your two options. The third option is also available, which all it's doing is adding an extra signature line on the bottom so that you sign off as well as the client signs off as well. Or you've got the default, which is the one-line signature as well here. One aspect I get a lot of questions on are, can we increase the font size? Currently, you've got large, standard, and small. I always recommend the large because it is the largest we have at this point. With that being said, we will be increasing the font sizes down the road as well. To get this printout to be able to be used in the software, all you need to do is click on Approve and Publish.
I'm such a fan of these printouts, Jeremy. It's a whole new world than when you and I started at the company way back in the day to today with these, and I find them really fun. What I've noticed is that once I kind of figured out how to do one, you could do any. So it's once you sort of get the hang of just moving through those blocks like you've been doing just now, you're really away to the races to making all of these for all the different printouts in the system.
Exactly.
We had a good question here from James, which was just a little bit more about permissions, asking if everyone can change these preferences or just those who have admin access. So it's not specific to admin access. I believe the specific permission is Office preferences. So Office preferences and printing preferences are tied in together. And if that's something, James, that you would like a specific direction on, just feel free to drop me a message, just emma@functionpoint.com, and I can find the exact specific box you need to have ticked or unticked as far as that goes. But it is related to Office preferences to access this area. And Gary, we had a good question from him. Jeremy, if you could just show again on the template where it goes and where it gets stored once it's in the approved and published status. I think it's just the My Printouts tab.
The actual printout template, yes, is stored under My Printouts.
Yeah.
And you'll see there's the estimate copy right here.
Right. And what I like with this page as well is that you don't need to drill back into it to disable it or say, okay, I'm not using that one anymore. You can just uncheck that enabled button and you're away to the races. And then, of course, like I think you were going to show once it is available, maybe show where it'll appear back at the estimate. That would be great.
Yes, definitely. So we'll actually take a look at my Webinar 4 estimate. Now when you click on print, you've got all the different options that you've made available here.
So cool. So cool. Love it. Love it. I'm glad we had some time to go through that. Hopefully, I still think that's on topic. So, what the heck?
That's, that's it. What the
Okay.
heck?
Now,
All
Jeremy,
right.
did you have anything? We're coming up to quarter two. Did you have anything else that you were hoping to show us today, or did you want to put me back to presenter and we'll just leave the floor open for questions for a bit here?
That was pretty much everything I wanted to cover today in this session. I would open the floor back up to questions.
Okay, well, why don't I go ahead and just do some of the housekeeping stuff here? I'm going to make myself presenter. Um, as I battle my mouse yet again, making myself the presenter here, and then I can just show my screen. Hopefully I'm showing the correct one. Screen 2, is that what I'm showing, Jeremy? My question mark screen there?
That's exactly what I'm seeing,
Perfect.
yes.
Phew. Okay, well, let me just move on to this next tab here. Just want to encourage everyone to make use of the help section in your function point system when you're logged in. Up by where you log out and where your name up is in the top right, there is a help menu there. And if you hover over that, you'll see a community forum as well as a help section and a contact support option. So if you do encounter a technical issue, our support team are definitely here to assist. Community forum is an area that Jeremy and I have been actively spending some time on of late to tidy up, clean up, get really active and happening again. And if you sign up to be a member of that support team, well, not support team, that support forum, I should say, you can communicate with other function point users, ask questions, help answer questions, and make feature requests for the product. So we look forward to hearing all your feedback there. And then if you hover over help, you will get taken into our documentation area, which includes videos, webinar recordings, places to sign up for new webinars and such. And then just wanted to put this screen up. So our next session is going to be using schedules to build in profitability. I'm going to be hosting that with Amanda. A little link to where you can register. And then, of course, we'd love you to visit our blog, visit us on, add us on Facebook. We've got some great pictures there of our team and stuff. So let me just, oh, as I scroll inadvertently away from the screen I wanted to be on, let me just see, we've got a couple more questions that have come in here. So a question from Ashley. Ashley, it's a great question. She's asked about expenses, about adding external expenses. We won't get into that too much today, Ashley, but by all means, it's something you and I can take offline, or there is a session that's going to be all about expenses in a couple of weeks that actually Jeremy's hosting as well. Ashley, why don't I reach out to you via email once the session's over with some directions or an offer of time to get together to look at that. So hold tight for that question. We will definitely answer it. If you really want to get doing expenses right now, I can tell you that if you hover over expenses in your main navigation bar, you'll see add expense as an option there. And that's one way to get going right away. But I will reach out shortly with some better feedback. And then we've got, let's see, one more here. Well, this is a good one. And Jeremy, this one is for you.
Well, to be honest, I'm an Edmonton fan, so I
Oh,
would say
well, come on. Well, we got to read you've seen the question from Gary?
I did,
Okay, well, I'm
yes.
going to read the question for the rest of the team here. His last question, and Gary, we need to send you a treat for this one. Coach Tortola, right or wrong to go after Calgary coach in the locker room? Personally, apparently Gary loved it. As a non-sport watching Canadian, I know, hang my head in shame, I have no idea what he's talking about, so that's why I was putting it to you, Jeremy. Now, Jeremy, you were at the Edmonton game the other day. Who won? Did you win? Did Edmonton win? Or
Yes, Edmonton won 4-2. Yes.
ooh,
It may have something to do with the fact their coach got a 15-game suspension too for trying to get in the Calgary locker room.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm out of the loop here. Oh, apparently it was a 6 game suspension. Well, um, we've got Tate chiming in the background. He's one of our hockey fans here. That is a good question to wrap things up. So thanks for that, Gary. What I'll do is, as Jeremy, I'm going to leave the webinar open for the next 10 minutes or so. I'm just going to leave this sort of screen going. So everyone, feel free to keep typing questions in. I'll be answering them as I can, and then hopefully we'll see all or some of you at the next sessions. And thanks so much for joining in today. Really appreciate everyone taking the time. And big thanks to you, Jeremy. I enjoy hosting these with you. You're always a good bit of fun. So appreciate you taking the time to show everyone all your tips and tricks on this stuff.
No problem, and it's great to have a aha moment.
Oh, look at you. You're going to make our marketing team very proud by saying things like that. And I've got it recorded. Excellent. Thanks, everyone. And we'll leave the session open and hope to see you again next time. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.